3, 2, 1. Hi, everybody. I haven't had time to do this video properly, so I'm just going to put it here, even though this is going to be, starting tomorrow, this is going to be part of the next project. So I'll just put it here for the people who are super far ahead. I brought in a little bit of code to create my interaction object. So first thing that we're going to do is save as copy, and we're going to name this Creating Projectile Part 1. Tomorrow I'm going to break this out into its own project instead of putting it where it is right now. I brought over this code from one of my other projects that I was working on, and I brought over my entire sprite. I just tossed the sprite in the backpack, and I'm going to start to use it. So what I brought in now is there's this little bit of code, and this doesn't need to be the space button, but it should be whatever button you had coded your kind of visual reaction to, where you change color or brightness, and your sound effect. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the sound effect off here, because we already should have one. And what we're going to do is, this is our normal code, right? Forever if space key is pressed, what are we going to do? We're going to create an event. And so I called that event shoot, but you could call it whatever you want. You can do a new message here. What this is going to it's going to say this happens. And in this case, we've named it shoot. And what's going to happen now, I put a wait 1 second block in there. That's because if I don't put a wait block in here, it's pretty important. Then whenever I press space, it will happen as fast as possible, which could be like 60 times a second. And generally, if you shoot something or throw something in a game, you want a little bit of time. So you can adjust this to whatever you want, how fast you want your objects to happen. So I brought in a sprite here. This is just a GIF I found on Giphy. I downloaded it as small, and I brought it in using our normal technique that we've been going over. And I want to go through this code. The first thing is that when you bring in a flag, you're going to go to looks, and you're going to do hide. Because what we're going to do is use something called the clone tool. And this is exceptionally powerful, super powerful, and we're going to use it for a lot of really interesting things. But what you want to do is you want the sprite itself to hide. And we are going to go to events, and down in events, once you've created a broadcast, you'll get the option of when I receive. So that's when broadcast happens. So every time you press the spacebar, on my main character I have, if I press a spacebar, it broadcasts shoot. On this sprite, every time I receive shoot, so every time you press a spacebar, it's gonna create a clone of myself. Now we've got this little bit of code, and if you go under control, it'll be down here at the bottom. Here's our clone stuff. I'm gonna do when I start as a clone, what do I want to do? I'm gonna go to looks, and I'm gonna bring in show. So it's going to show the clone. We want to go to your character. So whatever your character is named that you want it to start at, or wherever you want it to start at, you go to this code here, and let's see, you're going to go to, and you can bring that to make it go to a sprite when it starts, and you're going to point towards what. So if we have a villain or we had an interaction object, we could pick that here, but for right now, let's just click mouse pointer. So that means every time we press a spacebar, your object is going to go towards the mouse pointer. Now we've got this little bit of code. So this creates the clone of our projectile. It starts at your character, and then it goes towards the mouse pointer. Now it's going to repeat until what? Now I said touching edge, so until it hits the end of the screen. Or right now I put touching mouse pointer, but we're gonna, if there's a wall in your game or if there's an enemy and that enemy gets hit, you'd want it to disappear once it hits the enemy, right? Now I added some randomness here. You don't need to do that. You could if you want to, if you wanted to create some variation, but you could just do maybe 10 steps. So if I do that, the speed will be consistent. By adding that random block, and that's in the green operator, so I think we went over that before, pick random, that just creates a little bit of more challenge, because if everything is the same size or speed, it becomes very easy to predict. How you increase difficulty in a game is by adding variability or randomness, right? So I've got a new, some more parallel code here. So after it hits the wall or the character, what should you do? Bring in delete this clone, and that's at the very bottom of the control block. When you start as a clone, the other thing that I did is I did set size to a random size, so that kind of changes the size of the projectile. And there's a little bit of code here, and what is this code should be very familiar to you. What's going to happen? That's that animate GIF code. So you'll need that if you bring in a GIF from Giphy or from somewhere else. Now remember, if you're grabbing a GIF from Giphy, What you'd want to do is download it as small if it's too big, because you can only fit things that are 400 by 300 on Scratch. So if it's really high res, you might need to resize it using EasyGift. You could also rotate it using EasyGift. So if your missile or projectile is facing up or down, if you take it to EasyGift, you can do a rotation and just make sure that it's facing left or right, because that's how Scratch orients itself. All right, so when I do that, it should work. This should be working. If you go through that process, you're bringing in the gift, you're creating this code. I can help you troubleshoot in class. I'm excited to see what you make. Okay, bye.